No, that's fine.
Oh.
I don't know how much charge it does, but I also don't know how much I'm gonna need it. So.
All right, recorders are on, go for it. If you want to start.
You are in charge this meeting.
Oh, I am in charge of this meeting. Well, do we even have an agenda yet? Did we get one?
Eric did not send it.
Okay. He probably has it. I don't have it. Here's what I know we're supposed to be doing. Let me see if I have it.
Talking about trees.
Yeah, we're just gonna start off with trees. No, okay. So we'll call this meeting to order. It is 7:03. This is planning and zoning on maybe January 19th, 2022. There we go. January 19th, 2022. Let's do roll call. Let's just go around the room and everybody say who is currently here. Tiffany Hughes, Mayor.
Lisa Craddock, Dada.
Beth McFarland.
Brady Oxender.
Brian Wolf?
Terry O'Connor.
Tony Benedetti.
The last two are residents that are in attendance. Eric Fisher will be here. He is just running a few minutes behind. The first order of business is we have appointed Brady Oxender to Planning and Zoning as one of our voting members. But as of tonight, if we want to start with recommending the president of Planning and Zoning, is that what it is? Chairman. There we go. President, not president. You're the president of council.
President of council, yeah.
Okay, so if anybody wants to, or do you guys want me to do it?
I thought council had already,
We've already appointed him to Planning and Zoning, but we do not have this year. We still have to get a chairman, because we don't actually have a chairman because the chairman was him. So he was no longer. So I reappointed him.
oh, okay, I see what happened.
He's been reappointed to Planning and Zoning, but as of right
And this-
now,
This
The
body-
commission elects its own
This body
chairman.
elects its own chair. Got it.
correct. So we need
Yeah.
to, and also a vice chair.
Right, so.
Move to do this?
I believe so.
imagine. I am unclear as to council liaison to planning and zoning's position in the commission as well. I assume I am not a voting member.
You are
Wrong.
voting.
You are a
I
voting
am a
member.
voting member, okay. Well, good, then I have no problem making the
There you
motion to
go.
make Brady Oxender the chairperson of planning and zoning.
I can second, right? I'm the
You
second.
can,
I
you're a
am.
voter too.
I'm a voter too. So I'm the second.
Alright, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Alright, so sounds like we got us a chair.
Okay. And then do we? Oh, see, I knew he was gonna have it. And we did do roll call.
Oh, is, do we have enough people?
Yes.
You usually have a quorum.
She's not voting.
She's non-voting.
five
I'm
voting
here. Yeah,
members.
we have four.
We have four here.
You are one,
Okay.
two,
Oh, we only have
three,
five? Okay.
4. Yeah, there's only 5. And then Eddie. Does anybody know if Eddie is coming tonight?
Eddie, I believe, is still out of country.
Out of country. Man. must
Also,
be-
while we're on attendance, Donna sent me a text. Her family's wrapping up their COVID quarantine, so she will not be here unless she got her test kit today, and I don't think she did.
Okay.
Which is not happening for people.
Yeah.
If we want to do we want to wait and do vice, or I know my plan was to have Eddie Bell, or recommend Eddie Bell for vice.
Okay. Let's
But-
wait until he's here.
Let's wait till he's here.
So,
He should have an opportunity to turn down.
Right.
the nomination.
Exactly.
And
I don't like
Can
that
we-
answer.
According to
Can
the
we
book of
just
faces, he's in Costa Rica.
have a
and runs 5
conversation about
hours.
that, or?
I don't care.
that's awesome.
I might like to see somebody who's at more of the meetings. Doesn't seem like he's at many of them. No offense to Eddie,
I mean, it is.
or does it matter what I think?
No,
I'm not-
that's why you're here. It doesn't matter if you're voting or not. That was the whole point of having extra people here.
Just a thought I'm throwing out.
And then any discussion, or does anybody want to wait and see exactly how this pans out, the next one?
The-
Okay.
Yeah, this has, next up is secretary was on this agenda that we just passed out.
Yes,
What's
so, and then next part to this is, I believe Beth was doing that before, and I was gonna see if Beth wanted to do that again this year.
I self-appointed myself secretary
There you
last
go.
time.
So I would
So-
like to appoint you to it this
Yeah,
year.
so as chair, I'd like to create an actual position, and if you're willing to
Yes.
serve as that, there's no requirement that we even vote on it, but
Beautiful.
unless anybody has
I will
any
accept
issues.
it, yeah.
And then in the case that you're not here, we'll appoint somebody.
And not to be
that.
not fair, I think that we needed actual members to be those particular things, so that was kind of like the washout way that we went. Okay, so we're good on that, we'll do this. My goal, within the next 30 days is to just make sure that we really, with COVID, I totally understand, with the holidays, I totally understand the lack of attendance for some people. But now's the time that we put the hammer down. If people are not going to attend the meetings, we need replacements. We have people that want to be in planning and zoning. And now's the time that attendance needs to be a priority. And sickness, holidays, we're past that now. I think most people are getting past it. So let's see how that pans out over the next meeting. Have you heard from John?
Not for this meeting, but
Okay.
I'll have to check my emails. I think
Perfect.
John is
Has-
not 3 meetings absent without
Okay.
excuse.
Perfect, because I would say by the next one we've gotta be, because I don't feel like I've seen them in
And so, yeah, so
months.
the way that our code reads is that if somebody is absent 3 times unexcused,
Okay,
then the commission can vote them. Is it 4?
is it 4? And in all honesty, I mean, there may just be that some people want to step down,
Yeah.
and voluntarily want to do that. So that would be, again, totally up to them if they want to do that, and then we can do the 4. But I don't think anybody wants to hold up a position that if they're not able to attend, so. And it may just be, once again, that they're out on quarantine, out of the country, or we have that with a lot of people, so.
And again, just for folks here, as a reminder, to get an excuse, just send me an email and say you won't be here, and I'll say that's fine, and that's
Yes.
an excused absence. So there's nothing any more formal.
Do you feel I'm incorrect about Eddie? Maybe I'm misthinking that.
We'll see, it's nice that we'll have minutes now, that that we can go back
Oh,
and,
to see who's on the
and
roll
see.
call. Yeah.
I mean, I think probably as voting member, he's been here the least of the voting members. I think that's probably accurate, being that there's only 5 of us. But no, I think that's a good conversation for us to have at the next meeting to see.
See who's in attendance, and just, I know we're skipping around, never mind, it's on the bottom, so let's, okay, let's keep reading.
What?
Nothing, keep going.
So we've done our new business. Is there any other new business?
I won't be here.
Oh,
New business?
We're on new business now, what I'd like to do is come back to it, unless you'd like to.
I missed it.
I'm sorry, I was somewhere else for a second, say what you just said one more time.
I'd like to come back to new business after village planning, if that's okay.
That's okay by me.
Then we will move on to village planning, and I think we were hoping that Eric would just give us a quick recap of last year and update on things that are outstanding.
well, I'll be honest, I didn't prepare for a complete recap.
Well, then we don't need, I mean,
We maybe have to go that in the first regular meeting next time, if we wanna kinda go over that. Let me talk through the amphitheater and the shelter, maybe a couple things pop in my head. I believe the shelter at this stage, and our mayor and council president are here, is ready for consideration by the council, has been kicked up there, so we could put it on the agenda for council folks to consider from an appropriation standpoint. I think we've got quotes and everything like that, so that one is ready to be put in front of council.
so that means as far as we are concerned, our work is
Correct.
done.
You have recommended placements, council can choose to accept what you recommended. Obviously there were a couple spots discussed, so the council could even choose 2 shelters if they wanted to go that route, and put one on each location. But we'll go over that and we'll put that in front of them. Amphitheater. Brady and I had a brief conversation on timing on this one, since he's very in tune to what the capital budget and the legislature's doing. And so it sounds promising, I think from a timing standpoint, after that discussion. There's a couple quotes to wrap up, which I can do here in the next couple of weeks, and we can have because council needs to essentially have an ordinance. As part of the application, we have to have an ordinance appropriating the funds. So, and in this case, it would be, I think, somewhere around the 50,000 range. So we've got to have something that shows that we've got our match. Now, part of that match can be an in-kind match, so we'll do a little bit of some calculation. You know, there's the mayor's time and salary, there's my time and salary, we can, you know, amongst other things, and we can kind of add those together from a staff time, and we can take that off the top from a management standpoint, right? And so, you know, essentially it allows our match to go down a little bit. You know, we've got an in-kind plus like 40,000, right? Something like that. We'll work out the numbers. But either way, the council has to pass an ordinance that backs that up. We would attach all of that with our fill-out application, get that in. Since we could go 3 readings, as I was talking to Brady, your time frame would be end of March where we want to see that completed, and then we can get that in front of them right at the beginning of April and March. So, and then if you want to talk about the timing of the legislator, we can go.
Sure, and again, that, you know, the whole point is we get 100,000, we get up to 100,000 if we spend up to 50,000. So it's a, you know, 50% match from the village. And so the clock basically on these funds expires at the end of the fiscal year. So
It's June, end of June.
yeah.
Meaning we need to submit to whoever has given us this money
Correct.
receipts by the end of June.
No,
No.
I think we talked about that, we need to have it in their process.
Right, if it's, so, best case scenario, we, you know, have done the work and submitted receipts. It's actually, yeah, it's a reimbursement, so basically, as long as we've done the work, we can submit receipts a little bit after the start of the fiscal year. If we have not basically had our application approved by the end of the fiscal year, then we we quite possibly lose the funds.
Which is why we want to time well get it in by as soon as we're done.
And
Yeah.
the, you know, the bureaucracy is thick. And so, you know, the fact that even you've dropped it off in person doesn't mean they've received it possibly for a week or two.
Oh, yeah, goes in a bucket.
Right, so we want to make sure that we're in there well in advance. Now, if we're in process, if we've submitted our application and we're getting close to that deadline and haven't heard anything from them, I'm relatively confident, I'm fairly confident that I can convince our lawmakers to reappropriate the funds once more. These are bonded dollars, so they're not taxpayer funds. They've already been allocated specifically for this project. It's not that uncommon to get them reallocated if you haven't spent them. That said, we have now spent some of our goodwill with the legislator that might be better spent on something else, like going for another round of funding
Phase 2, yeah.
around that
Yeah.
same time frame, because the next bill, which has the reappropriations in it, will also be the next capital bill, where we can hopefully go for additional funds, and we've identified actually an avenue for additional funds. Again, all up to the legislature, and our legislators, redistricting throws another monkey wrench in there, but we've identified an avenue for additional funding, for future funding for another project, that requires no match from the village. So the thought would be to go that way.
So I'm just trying to get my timeline in my head. So by July, we need work in process, we need it contracted, what needs to be, where do we need to be in July to be right?
We need, realistically, we need the application that we've submitted to the department to have their stamp of approval on it, saying, we agree that if you do this work, we will give you these
Okay.
funds.
So we just need to have everything ready
Yes.
to say, this is what we plan on doing, and we are ready to begin acting as soon as you say go.
Right, and they have to have approved it all.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem, yeah, so it sounds like administratively we need legislation to
Correct.
appropriate the funds. Did we not account for those funds in the budget at all?
I don't believe.
So we're.
No,
Well,
that's a good question, we'll have to look.
Okay, so
If
here's
we
what I
did,
would
great.
say. Last year, we appropriated all of, I'm saying last year, and I don't know if we did it this year, I would assume we did, but last year we appropriated all of the parkland fund.
Okay.
Because the goal was to get the structure done, it was to do all of those types of things. We obviously haven't finished the structure, the
Well, this,
shelter.
But it's also,
this probably has to be
it's
a
in a line
special
item.
appropriation
Yeah.
for this purpose.
It has to be an
So-
ordinance that you
Yeah.
accept
Oh,
the
yeah,
money.
you're still gonna have to do something, yeah, because I'm not gonna move forward without council's approval on it.
We can get an answer to that.
Okay.
But I guess the question is we have not gone as far as to say, as far as P and Z or council, exactly where they want the money to come from. Is anybody planning on using park lane funds? Is this gonna come from the general fund? Where are we gonna come up with, not 50,000, but
The match.
the match?
Yeah.
So I don't wanna use the words 50,000 because maybe we're only gonna come up with 30, maybe we
Right.
only need to come up with 20 with,
So that's a takeaway for the finance committee.
Where do we want the money to come from?
figure out where the money needs to come from.
exactly.
And then,
Do you wanna make a note of that for the, yeah, cause that's Thursday. Yes?
I guess,
finance meeting
yeah,
Thursday?
I think so. Feels about right.
Sounds right.
So for this commission, what I would like to do is hopefully at our next meeting, Eric will be able to present us with a ballpark quote, that we can then recommend. It will have a general scope of work with a general quote. We've been out there, we've walked around, we know what we're hoping to do as far as, clear the small trees growing through the stage, keep the big trees that we can, put some decking down on top of it. We wanna run electric, we wanna put a ramp up to the stage, we wanna make sure that there is ADA seating at the top. We got word back from legal folks that it's basically considered non-feasible financially to do full ADA compliance.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to be technically feasible, otherwise you do what's technically feasible
Right.
within the budget that you've spent. So 20%, but it's gotta be, but if the project, as was explained to me, to do a full ADA over there costs $100,000, that's not technically feasible, you only need to spend up to 20% of the budget on something that's feasible within the project scope.
Yeah, I mean, to get ADA access down there, you'd need some crazy
Exactly.
zigzaggy ramp.
But that isn't how they look at it when they review it by code. What they'll look at is what you're doing, and then inside what you're doing, so say you're building the stage, so inside whatever that stage is, they'll look at, okay, access to the stage. So even if you only had access up to the stage, like if that whole stage cost 50,000, then it would be the 20% of that, you have to make the stage accessible. Because you're not developing that entire site, you're just doing that little area. So that's how they'll look at that.
I am not an expert in that, I would say that I would personally not wanna call the stage ADA accessible unless it was actually ADA accessible. And I would imagine to do that, you'd have to give access from the path to the stage, and that would be a massive
We will do
project.
what we have to do to meet the ADA requirements
Alright.
within the budget.
I mean, because I've done
Required.
remodelings where the office, it's a small renovation, but we're required to like change out the hardware.
Yeah,
And that, I mean, you don't have to make the whole, put a ramp up to the building if all you're doing is a few partitions inside, because a ramp would be excessive. But changing out the hardware in comparison to the interior
Sure.
renovation is not. So
I
that's
think-
kind of how they
Yeah,
look
and I
at
think
it in context of the whole project.
Yeah, importantly, I think we want to make sure that, because we're gonna mow the hill, but we're not putting in seating, we're not, at this point in what we've discussed. But we wanna make sure that for folks who can't get to the hill, get down the hill,
That
up
they
on the
have a
path,
place.
that there is,
Yeah.
whether it's a concrete pad, they can set chairs, or a place to park a wheelchair, whatever.
Right.
That they're included at least in as much as
Yeah,
we can
that's-
reasonably do, which is to be an audience member.
that I think is brilliant.
So those were the basic improvements that we wanna do, and a barrier in the back.
Yes, we'll have to have something along that line where the ravine drops off, it's dangerous there, so we'll include that fence there.
So yeah, we'll get a quote, basically scope of work and general quote, that again, all we're going to do is pass on to council so that they can hopefully, have their input and agree.
Do we have that scope documented somewhere that we can have for finance committee, just so that way if people.
Yes,
Thursday?
I have a documentation of what we're doing, and then I've got some things filled in where we've got hard quotes for.
Alright.
And then I can give you our estimates that we have. We still need to receive an electric quote, which I'll do the next couple of weeks, and we still need to I need to get something on the barrier, but I have a general idea of what that costs.
So for Thursday for the finance committee, if we can have the number
Yeah.
and that scope, so that we can have a real conversation.
When we say Thursday, is it
What is
tomorrow
today?
or
That's-
next Thursday?
Tomorrow?
Just wanna make sure what I'm.
No, it's next Thursday.
Okay, that's
No,
good,
I'm
that's good.
Pretty sure it's next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Perfect.
Oh my
That
gosh.
is the
You guys are all
27th.
confused.
Not tomorrow, but the
Yes.
27th.
I was gonna say.
And
I
keeping
could
in
make it
mind
happen, but.
Beautiful.
keeping in mind that nothing you'll be discussing there is a P and Z recommendation at this point.
Just to get you ready.
It's just, yeah, it's just background
Don't-
materials. at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, we're, I mean, it's not in stone yet, but it's.
It's getting there.
It's what we've been
it's
discussing.
as much information as we have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool, okay.
Can I ask a question? Do you have any updates on like the lily pond? How is it going? How did it go? Where are we at?
Well,
Just for part of the recap.
yeah, I did just pop by. I'm not seeing and I'm not sure what water plants are supposed to do, so I'm not seeing the lilies. They did really well until.
Right.
You know, it got cold, so I think they were good. The pickerelweed kind of the same, but looking on the banks, I'm actually seeing, of course, there's a lot of vegetation that could have been seed, but could have been just the seed bank. But I'm actually seeing a lot of the plants,
Okay.
the plugs that were planted were growing. So I think, I'm not exactly sure how we move ahead in terms of, at what point do we mow down or, just to get what we want growing.
Right.
I'll find that out. But yeah, I think it's, at this point, it's successful.
Okay. Just because we're doing the 2021, I knew she'd have more information than I'm definitely gonna have, so.
I would say the trees, what I noticed was a lot of the maples did well, the river birch maybe not so much. They
Okay.
tend to need more water, which, may have been, because we basically put them in and they got water every once in a while, but it wasn't a specific, but yeah, I think for the most part.
Okay.
The tree planting, I haven't, once the vegetation dies down, I'll check them out and see how they are, so I don't know how that is, but.
Well, as we
hopefully good.
get to mowing, just let me know what we need to do over there.
Okay, I will, check with some.
Between myself and
sources.
Brian. Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Was the hill with the sunflowers installed?
yeah,
I saw a
Was
couple.
it?
I think so where they put it, I still don't agree with where they put it.
No, it should be a
There's
bit
so much
higher.
sun at the top of that.
Yeah, it needs to be
Where they
higher.
put it, there's an animal path right through the middle of it.
Mm.
So, probably the deer were walking by and munching. There were a few.
There were a few.
I have, I saved a lot of sunflower seeds and actually some natives, so I've, pitched them over there, the seeds, so,
Okay.
maybe they'll just grow,
Maybe we can do a little bit more higher up this year.
yeah,
I agree, I think it should have been higher up.
so.
And I don't know anything about it, but that's where the sun was.
I mean, honestly, they'd probably get eaten there. It's not like the deer are just gonna eat on this path, but if there are enough of them growing
Oh, yeah.
strongly, maybe they wouldn't, maybe some of them would.
Okay,
So, yeah,
perfect. Okay, that was okay, well, I'm good.
And yeah, while I'm thinking about one more piece of 21 recap, we did make our recommendations on sign code to council, and so now that's in their hands for whatever they want to do with
Yeah.
it.
That's true, that'll
We
come up in
have-
legislation next meeting, 'cause
Yeah.
I had it ready for this one, but we have it
Well, we
Thursday.
didn't have a legislative.
That's right.
committee, So we'll
Next
just
week.
introduce it there, and I think we had already, did it change substantially since we saw the red line?
I have to double check, because whatever was submitted was something with the council, with legal council too.
Yeah.
He'll be at that meeting, so we'll go through it.
Odds are it didn't change much, and as
No.
long as it didn't change much, I don't see that being any problem.
No, not yet. And while we're doing recaps, you're jogging my memory, so essentially, yeah, we went through a number of green space planning items from the beginning of the year up to the end. Those have culminated both in the amphitheater, obviously shelter, the plantings around the ponds. I know we were talking about doing some other things, sunflower, all those things that we had discussed culminated in various points throughout the year to this current date. And so I know we'll probably continue with some green space planting, you know, the trees that you and your group planted amongst others. So there was a lot of little and large things that got done last year, which is a great credit to everyone who took part in that, so we appreciate it.
I'm gonna say one thing I noticed is, across from the lily pond, we were talking about putting a picnic table.
Oh, table.
Which I'm not
forgot about that.
So it'd be
No.
nice to,
And we have some that we can get put over there. I think part of it was getting wetter in that area, and I think that was the drawback. So, I mean, if you think that we can put it in there and see what happens. The worst thing it'll do is float away.
Yeah, I mean, the
It's
plan is
only
still to
super-
move those guys around,
Yeah,
right?
it's super heavy. I mean, it's only when there's a super heavy rain, so
yeah.
let's see what we can, oh, yeah, I can get one over there. Especially while it's,
Obviously, yeah, for 2 months, there's no real reason to move picnic tables
no,
around.
we'll wait until spring.
We did have some other, on the sign code, jog my memory, we had some other legislation that we had, punched up a couple different times during the year. That may jump back in my head, but while we're talking code, I know, that there was discussion, and we'll be putting back in front of, council, a quote from our legal counsel's firm to completely rewrite the, code for the village, in multiple chapters, which include chapter 12 as well as chapter 14. Bring things up to where they should be, or they should have been back from 89, and eliminating things that are redundant or non-applicable or enforceable, quite frankly, at this stage of the game. And obviously, as that first drafts go through, the P&Z will be part of the stuff that, is applicable to theirs, purview as well. So,
I think that's a great idea.
yeah,
So
it's badly needed.
with Frost Brown Todd leading the charge. So
Which makes a lot of sense. One of the big problems with the code rewrite is obviously the amount of effort and time that goes into it, right? And there's limited hours from staff and this body, which has, we have a perfectly good law firm, and it's a small chunk of change to completely update and rewrite our code, right? I mean, and then all of a sudden you've got something nice in front of you, and that matches what the village is today. So, and what's legal.
excited to see what that number is.
Yes. I think you'll find it very affordable compared to all the other shenanigans that have gone on, so.
Can I get some clarification on saying that they're just gonna skip up?
Right.
Well, I'm just trying to understand what this.
Go ahead. What's your question?
What was it, you said you're gonna have the attorney, put together a price to rewrite the code.
There
It
will
sounds
be-
like that's what council is
There'll be
looking
a
at
quote
doing.
to council to allocate money for the, code rewrite. Yeah.
Okay, so any other village planning items?
Other than getting to your goals,
Right, and so that's, I guess I was gonna put under the start of, the restart of new business, I guess. I am very interested to hear what this commission wants to do this year. So not asking for anybody to volunteer anything even right now, but, think about it.
I got one.
Okay,
Alright, so first things first, in our code, though, it may be rewritten 1202.04 under duties. Letter F, establish such rules, regulations, procedures as necessary to ensure the prompt and orderly processing, blah, blah, blah. This body has never developed said rules.
Okay.
And it's in those rules that is where this body is supposed to be authorizing the village to do things like administratively approved fence permits. Right, so we need to craft those rules sooner rather than later.
okay.
What does that look like? Do we take that information from another entity, or how do you go about that?
As far as I'm concerned, that can be as easy as this body acknowledges as a rule, any permits, application submitted to the village that on their face meet all code can be administratively approved. That's it. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if somebody writes that down, what I just said, and someone makes a motion to adopt that as a rule,
Can you
done.
repeat that? I'm gonna write it down. I was starting to write it down, but I was like, wait, you went too fast.
this, the Planning and Zoning Commission, right, because we're a commission, right? Not a committee. Adopts as a rule that any permit application submitted to the village that on its face meets all,
Code requirements.
code requirements, may be administratively issued, or may be issued by the administration.
Maybe reviewed and issued, yeah.
Yeah.
So this was, you're saying this was never done
Yeah, this is something that should have been done back in 2017.
when it happened?
When the ordinance that was passed that added that language. And I'm sure, what I would, as charitably as I can, I'm sure the body said, of course that's the rule, because they had lots of conversation about what this means and what this is going to do, but nobody wrote the rule down
Yeah.
and put it in our code or filed it away anywhere that anybody can find. So we just need to do that. I've heard enough about this particular issue
Yeah.
that.
Well, and just to go further, I believe that, and I don't know if everybody's aware or whatever, but it's my understanding that when this happened a couple years ago, the big push was when we had the new development. We had deck permits and fence permits. You have 250 new houses coming in. And for those people to be waiting 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks
Yeah.
for planning and zoning to meet to approve those didn't make sense.
Well, it's any fence, right?
Well, it's any fence, but-
Before administration took over again, on their face conforming
Correct.
permits, any application, cause back then planning and zoning was only meeting once a month. So if you didn't
I had
get
to
your
wait for over 4
application
weeks.
in, if you didn't get your application in before that meeting of the month, then you'd have 30 days before that body could review it.
Yeah.
And then if they had any questions, concerns, comments, then it was another month before they could review whatever the response was.
And then you had to come to planning and zoning to have it done. They told me I had to be
Yeah,
here.
I would imagine,
I think you did.
I did.
Or
I
your-
sat
or your
here.
people, I remember you.
So this,
But-
this 2017,
the intention.
You know,
because
ordinance.
I was on council when it was passed.
right, and I've been operating, since I've been on the commission with that understanding.
Correct.
Right.
We've all had that
Right.
understanding.
That
We all
it
have
wasn't,
that.
that it,
We've all had the understanding
Right.
this rule existed. Unfortunately, nobody can find it written down.
I'm not sure I don't,
We probably
first
did.
of all, I can't believe it's been 5 years.
Yeah,
But
it
I
has been.
don't really remember a huge conversation about that. It
I,
seems like we were just
It was a
told one
large
day.
conversation.
I remember on the council side, there was huge conversation.
I actually-
I wasn't in
Well,
the
I'm
planning
talking,
and zoning
I'm talking
meetings,
in
but.
P and Z,
No,
but I.
We did, I was here at that time, and that was a large point in 2017 to discuss, because I was kind of horrified at how long what was going on. It was very.
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, I guess I do remember some, but I don't know, it just seemed like the next thing you knew, it was
Well,
done,
this-
and we didn't have
This body
to,
made a recommendation to council to adopt it. I mean,
Yeah.
you had that as part of the process.
okay,
So it came from this body, from a recommendation, and council took that up, legal council reviewed. And, there was, some more things could have been changed, and we'll
Yeah.
make it right.
Yeah.
So-
Okay,
that's
so,
good.
what, do you guys wanna talk about it? Do you guys just want to make a motion to adopt it?
No, I would like to ask, what's the difference between a rule and then the ordinances in the code that we're gonna have the lawyer review?
So a rule is this body's rules,
Okay.
right? This body can make up whatever rules it wants
Okay.
about this body,
Okay,
right? An ordinance, and a resolution is something that's passed by council, and those, there's a lot, there's a little difference between an ordinance and a resolution, but those are basically the law of the land. But rules that we're talking about are established by this body about this body's work. So the
we
way,
can tell ourselves what to do.
Yeah.
And everybody else can tell us
Right,
what to
'cause-
do, but
'cause-
rules is where we decide
the
what we do.
way, the way
so rules
our-
are deciding what we're doing,
Right.
Yeah,
right?
so the way our code is written regarding the issuance of permits is that this body is the one that issues permits, right? In 2017, what was discussed and agreed upon then, but not apparently appropriately recorded, was that we changed the code to allow planning and zoning to establish such rules to, make things move easier, to allow the villager to coordinate with village fiscal officer, engineer, building inspector, and other such officials as they deem necessary.
So that part F was the 2017.
That was part of it, we also
Part of it.
removed some duties.
Right.
Yeah, there was
As
some
I-
other
if
things,
you
but
remember
this
that
was the
email I
big.
sent around, yeah, the duties were
This was the
removed.
big part of it, as I recall it. And again, it was so that we could remove, again, on their face conforming applications, right? Because if someone comes in and their picture of their fence permit is perfect, right? It's the right height, it's the right setback, it's away from the lot lines just right. All of those things, there's no good reason for it to wait to come in front of this body that only meets once or twice a month when, you know, Eric or John can look at it, say, yep, this works, done.
But what if the lot that the fence is sitting on, or there's other non-conforming things about that lot?
That's a variance.
Right,
That's
so
variance.
if it requires a variance, then it does not meet the rule which says that on its face meets all of the
I think
required code.
the on its face part is a problem.
Can I get 1 minute, please? I'm asking the chair, yes or no?
No, we don't have a spot in
Fine, that's
the
fine,
meeting for
Tracy.
public comment.
That's how you wanna roll, that's fine.
So on the face, you know, like most municipalities, professional municipalities out there, the staff review it to code, right? And if it meets the code, it gets approved. If it doesn't, it ends up at BZA, or if they use P and Z council, which, you know, Grove City does, other ones as well, it goes through that process to receive its variances. And if there's a disagreement, as we know there recently was with the fence, that rule, that permit issuance or non-issuance, if we didn't issue a permit, that could also have been appealed. So in either case, people have rights to appeal our administrative orders because there is a due process that goes into any of these, you know, from a property ownership and ordinance standpoint. So, keeps everyone honest.
There you go.
So in terms of doing rules, I mean, do we want to do them as a entire, I mean, are we just gonna every month come up with a rule we want to add, or shouldn't they
We
be
certainly
like looked at in
can.
entirety, or does it matter?
We certainly can, I mean, it's your, don't let me steal.
Sure, so I mean, my preference would be to take a couple meetings and adopt a handful of rules. So things that we see could make the running of our meetings and the issuance of permits, which is, you know, and the recommendations, which is really all we can do, that would make everything flow more smoothly in the ways that we view it. So I would take that and say that that's, you know, on the recommendation list for rule number 1, and if anybody has any additional rules, then let's put this on the agenda as an item for the next meeting. And in between now and then, let's think about those,
Agenda.
knowing that, you know, we're effectively operating under this rule currently. We're talking about,
Well,
you know.
I will throw in there that, it is my opinion that we would do well to adopt that particular rule sooner rather than later, because, I think this is a CYA issue, and, you know, the beauty is a rule can be amended at any time as well, right? If we adopt this rule today, between now and when we sit down and have a more robust discussion about this body's rules, anybody who submits a permit between now and then, we've at least covered our bases.
But you haven't amended.
You just have to have someone make a motion
Yeah,
and then second it, just like normal Robert's rules.
Well, I would like to add to this that what, I would like to add some other things around this rule, like that, and maybe this is maybe it has to be another rule, that the permits, if they are discovered to be not thoroughly reviewed, that it would immediately go into a variance, and that if the lots that the fences are on are in non-conformance, that it goes to a variance, or if the lot is in non-conformance, that it requires a survey.
We're not talking
Like-
about fences, we're talking about permits in general.
Permits in general.
Permits
So
in
let me
general. Okay,
understand that.
well then,
Let
okay,
me
in the
understand
permit
this.
in general, it's like, okay, if the lot of a permit for, anyone applies for any permit then. If the lot in general is non-conforming, then it requires a variance.
The lot
Right.
does, but the fence, as an example, so let's walk through that real quick. If the lot, which is common in Minerva Park under its current zoning, in we'll call it the classic section, where it calls out, the R3 calls out an 80-foot wide lot. A lot of those lots are 55, 60 feet wide. The lot by and of itself is non-conforming. However, a fence can be made to follow the code and conform to the code as it exists. You don't have to vary each lot every time that someone puts a fence in if the fence meets the code in those
Correct.
cases. That's
Correct.
not required, our legal counsel can opine on that, all right? That issue gets back to the code rewrite where we can adopt code that conforms everything as it should. So that will come down the pipe, right? Anything, now, if someone came in, let's say they wanted to redo their driveway, at such time that they wanted to redo their driveway, if the driveway was only 7 feet wide, 8 feet wide, as it is in the classic section, many of these things, they would have to get a variance beyond normal maintenance. So if they wanted to move the driveway, right, to the middle of the yard, change the apron, all that kind of stuff, they would need a variance in order to maintain 8 feet. But if they're moving it, they may just make it 10 feet and conform. See what I'm saying?
So I'm thinking back to, we had a variance hearing last summer.
Okay.
And there was, a question came up that there was a fence that was 8 feet from the house. And so there was a question coming up about side yard setbacks and the distance something could be from the side yard. And they were like, okay, well, the house is already 8 feet from the side.
Yes.
So you're
Talking about that one
on.
across the way.
Correct.
Yep.
So you
Yep.
can continue that on.
That's right. We gave them a
That's
variance
fine.
for that.
Correct. And then, but also inside that variance, there was like the size of the lot was small.
Yep, we gave them a variance for
The
that.
front yard setback, that we allowed them to pull the garage out and reduce the front yard
Yep.
setback. So all that sets a precedent
It's-
for other,
There's no precedence.
No.
No, there's no precedent.
Even if somebody had exactly that same lot and wanted to do exactly the same thing that was right next door to it, right? Like, so imagine that lot was duplicated right next door to it,
Oh.
and they wanted to do the same thing again, they
different
would still
case.
need a,
Yeah.
they would still need
Whole
a
different
variance.
they would still need a variance.
Right,
Correct.
right, so.
But the people that are getting that said, well, over here,
They
you
can.
allowed them to do
Yeah,
that.
they
with
absolutely can say
25%.
that.
They
And
can
that's
say
what
that.
they can
So that's
say
what
that.
I'm saying about
But
It's not
that's,
a
but that's not
precedent.
what we're
That's not a
talking about right
precedent.
now.
It's
We
not
are
legal
talking
precedent.
about all the i's are dotted, all the t's are crossed. There's
Yes.
no perceived need for a variance.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
There is
so-
no need for a
Administration
variance.
can issue the
That's
permit
what
without
happens.
coming to planning and zoning.
Right.
We would not give someone, and again, this is what the appeals process is for. If we fail in our duty to assess that, that's where council would have said, hey dummies,
Yeah.
you approved this has gotta go back for a variance, and then we kick it back to go through the variance
But
process.
it would need to go
Yeah.
through that appeal process.
When we catch things, Beth, especially like the house across the street, and what kicks in getting a variance for the lot size and stuff is when we have to do things like when they expand the house, right? And the setbacks get a variance, but the lot itself is issued a variance in order, because there's no way to make that lot conform under the current code, obviously,
Correct.
right?
Right.
And in order for them to get covered by their insurance, in order for them not to have clouds on their titles, we clear everything up at that time when we have the opportunity to do so, right? So in that case, he was making all those changes, it's a one-stop shop for variances at that point, right, to make everything conform.
But if something's non-conforming and you're approving something that exacerbates the non-conformance.
That's correct. There would be an issue there, but in this particular case, when we approve a fence, even if it's a non-conforming lot, we're not exacerbating the non-conforming lot. That doesn't happen in that case. That's not what triggers it.
So if the
Yeah,
distance
we'll-
between
we'll
my
do
houses is
legal
only
recommend, Which we're
12,
not qualified to discuss.
if the distance between my houses is only, 12 feet
Yes,
between two houses,
you should have 16.
will you have a minimum, well, no, wait, let's make it even smaller. Let's make it a minimum of like 8 between the two houses, okay?
Okay.
So, and it's like, 4 foot for these people, 4 feet for these people.
Okay.
Okay, that's what it is. That's existing, that's
Yes.
non-conforming because they need a minimum of 8.
Correct.
On each side. So we're gonna say, oh, but we're putting a fence in, so we just smack
The
a
fence
fence
is
down the
allowed to
middle.
be, the fence is allowed to be on there, doesn't exacerbate the fact that the lots are already legal non-conforming,
Yeah.
But it exacerbates the fact that
Well, it
they're
doesn't,
not
but-
8 feet.
not according to the
However,
law.
so here is the
I don't know.
perspective.
That's why I have attorneys to talk to when these
Here-
things come up.
Here's the perspective that you would have to have there, right? That person, right, who only has 4 feet of their own, has every right to disallow the person on the other side from entering their property. That other person has no legal right to enter their property, right? So there's no exacerbation
There's
of the other person's rights by erecting that
Yeah,
fence.
if they meet the fence code, now if they wanna construct an 8-foot fence, they have
Right,
done
if
something
it's
else
8 foot
different.
tall, if it's less than 14
That-
feet from
that's not allowed
the
without
build
variance.
line, if it's all of the other things, the rules that we have about fences, right? If those are all met, then it's
That's an example.
it's a compliant fence.
Even on these non-conforming lots, what I found is because we've had 4 houses, well, we have up to 4 houses, we've had 3 houses get built, or in process of getting built. They've got weird sized lots, right? They're legal non-conforming. They still don't need a variance if they can meet all of the setbacks, even if they can meet the minimum square footage requirements of the house, if they can meet the setbacks, if they can meet the building, all that stuff, they can meet all that, they don't actually need a variance, they can still meet the code, even if the lot itself is legal non-conforming, okay?
Okay, all right, so say all that's true then, and you say, okay, fine, pass, go ahead, we'll just grant it. But nobody knows that that's happening, and then there's just like this, there's a huge blow up about it. Wouldn't having that as a variance and having people weigh in on that avoid some of that?
But they're not required to get a variance, we're forcing them through a process that
So,
we
right,
don't, we
and so
can't.
the answer is possibly, right, because they would have to know that the variance hearing is happening and be aware and show up and everything. But on top of that, now you've put everything back so that
Yeah.
even the person who, their lot is too small, but they wanna build a small deck as well, that has nothing to do with the size of their lot,
Yeah.
has to come here and wait for us to be ready to hear them and approve them before they can actually do anything. And the whole reason for doing this in the first place is because in 99.9% of the cases, we're letting the villagers do their improvements quickly, as opposed to us being the ones who hold them up. So if we now if we now bring it all back to us,
It
then
also,
we've just defeated the entire purpose.
if I may add, right, what you're describing also lends itself, in my opinion, to the potential of abuse, right? So going back to your same question, 8 feet between the 2 houses, but the person has every right to put
Yeah.
that fence there, right? But now that we've made them come in front of a body that has to approve it, right? Now that body can do other things that has the opportunity for abuse.
Yeah, and quite frankly, that
Right.
has happened.
And that has happened
Yeah.
in this village. So it would be better if on its face, if it meets all the rules, then it gets approved. If the neighbor doesn't like it, when they see those post holes dug, and they're like, hey, wait a second, now I can't, step over their side of the yard because I like stepping over their side of the yard, right? Then they can appeal the
Yeah.
permit.
That's a due
That is
process.
within their rights, that is due process.
Yep. Everybody has rights.
Yeah.
And we're also obligated as a village not to infringe upon those rights. We are quite frankly very lucky under the former system that we did not get sued on multiple occasions based on what happened, the way they were reviewing these things. Because it was not correct.
So here, my proposal would be to accept this language today to continue current practice and make that clear, with the knowledge that we have the ability to write our own rules at any given time, and that we would likely be best served with more than a single rule.
Oh, yeah, we need
So,
more rules, we just
um,
absolutely need this one.
So I'd like to put rules on the agenda for the next meeting. I'd like to pass this one, I'd like to put this one up for a vote today. And then if we'd like to amend it at a future meeting, or pass additional or clarifying rules, then we can do that going forward.
Yeah, I think the way council does its rules is it always passes them in totality, right? So, we can make whatever amendments, and then we have a new total document, we pass this document as our rules.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I would
So,
recommend.
yeah, so with that, I would entertain a motion at this point.
So moved.
Need a second.
Second? Sorry.
Okay.
And
Do you wanna do all those in favor or roll
All in
call?
favor?
All those in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Okay.
That's 3-1. Okay.
And then do you just want, secretary to do it, or do you want admin to do it? As far as starting to keep track of the rules?
All I really need is a file in a file cabinet somewhere that someone can find that says rules of planning and zoning.
Secretary
Put
to
that
do it?
paper in there, whoever.
That's what I want to make sure.
Yeah. And then the secretary will have it in the minutes.
Perfect.
And you have to keep an official file.
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
rules.
I'll have admin do it and add it too. What we'll do is we will create, and I know she can hear this, so, On our common drive, we will create a planning and zoning rules, and then
Cool.
each time we can go in and adjust them based on that, and I'll talk to her tomorrow.
Perfect.
And yeah, and if we can figure out how to get those posted to the website as well.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, she can do that. We have a planning and zoning tab.
easy peasy.
Okay, so, new business, yeah, I would like to hear what folks want to do. I know we've had discussions in the past about green space, we've talked about pickleball. We've named all the lakes and we've made great improvements on one of them. If we wanna find another one that we want to, do things on, let's be active and let's make our recommendations as we can and let's try and, spend some of this Mary Yost money and let's see if we can't use parkland funds to actually improve things.
Did you say you named all the lakes?
We did, see? They all have
Yeah, I was
names.
Nobody
just- I
knows
was
the
just-
names
I
though.
was just noting that we need to
Ah.
find the map of the names, because that's something we need to
Ah.
add to our maps.
Yeah.
Then since we're about to take our GIS up, we'll add that to I need to add that to the labels.
We know the names.
We don't need a resolution to name by.
Well, we
one?
can, well, I don't think so. So if council wants to change the names, they're welcome to do that, so we can put those
I'm
up
trying to
there.
think of where we read,
Yeah,
but I think that we saw that we were allowed to do
Oh,
that.
right, good on you, I'm not saying you couldn't, I was just curious.
But to make it more final, if
Official,
there's
like we
if
set the
to make it more
resolution.
official, if somebody wants to, we can always, however you guys
Done
want
is
to
done,
handle it.
if you got a rule that says you can do it, you can do it, I'm not saying you can't, I'm not asking you.
We just
to
wanna
bring
make
it
sure
to
it's not one of
So
those
we
false.
add that
I think it
Make a
might have
rule.
been for might have been as part of F.
council. Might have been,
So that we know what ones we're talking about when we were talking about improvements.
yeah.
So that's that. Does anybody have anything they would like to add? Oh, yes, trees and other issues.
Yeah, as far as green space, I don't know if this is where it's discussed, but I think we need to, it'd be nice to get on top of the invasive issue. And I do know some different people in the village who are interested in, or at least they mentioned that, in tackling that. Trees. Should I go into that now?
yeah.
Yeah,
So Green Columbus is offering their trees free again. They are 6 to 24 inches, the different trees, there's a host of trees. You have to buy, or you don't buy them, they're free. They come in bundles of 50, so each kind is 50, just like last year.
What's
We
the
have-
date line on that? Because last year we missed some trees we
Yeah,
wanted.
you have to order by 2/4.
Okay, so we should get our.
I have been in conversation with her, I actually asked if I could go ahead and order some.
Yes,
And she said, she didn't seem to think it was before tonight, cause I thought, I know we missed them last year.
that's right. we did.
Anyway, she didn't seem to think that was a concern, at least by this meeting, but we should figure out what we want and get them ordered.
Because I would guess that probably the body doesn't have a problem with, at least are putting in the order for the ones we missed out on last year, because we had, I think that's probably appropriate. So if we wanna look back on what we. did
I
last
think it was, I know one was black cherry, I was thinking the other was tulip tree.
year. Yeah, it was,
Does that
that's
sound
right, it
right?
was tulip tree, that's right.
The other thing I'm gonna say, okay, so there's a little bit more. So there's also the Franklin Soil and Water Sale, that you don't have to get 50 trees. They do cost you, they're, I don't know, like maybe $20 for 10 trees. I mean, they're not very expensive, and they're about the
in the
same.
email
size.
that you sent?
I'm sorry?
Was that in the email, was that the email you
Yeah,
sent?
was
Okay.
all that.
You were
And-
saying that they were,
Are they bigger?
25 trees for $20.
They don't sound bigger.
Okay.
But I also, when
Seven
we
to
were
10
checking
inches.
into, like, the pine trees, the white pine would be
Yes.
through Franklin Soil and Water, that's not through Green Columbus. So those were, I think they're saying maybe 2 feet. I thought I'll check with Oakland and see what they have. You can get a 3-gallon, 2.5 to 3 foot tall tree for $30. So, I mean, the other ones are small.
And that is things that we can use the Mary Yost for, is that correct?
Yeah.
The ones that are not, okay.
But those also grow, I think it was 2 to 3 feet a year. I mean, they're fast growers. But if you're starting with one this big, it's gonna take a while. I think the other issue with that is if you're putting them in places that are mowed, you can mark them, but that's gonna be difficult for
Right. Yeah.
whoever, Brian or whoever.
I think there's plenty of places we can put them that would not be in the no way.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of, we just need to decide, you know, which way, do we want 50 of each? Do we want to go with Franklin Soil and Water? Those last year sold out very quickly as well.
I
And
would
think
say
that sales
get those
was
ordered, the ones that we missed out on last year, as soon as
Okay.
possible, and I'm not saying that I'm the boss of anybody, but that would be nice, and I don't know that anybody's gonna disagree with that,
Yeah, I mean, the free ones,
for sure.
you know, fortunately for us, unfortunately for you, all the work falls on
Yeah.
you to
Well,
order and
this
then
is-
generally plant
This,
too.
I don't mind ordering it, this is the thing that I cannot be,
Responsible for all
I
of it
can't be
again.
doing that again this year.
Okay.
We had a good bit of help for the trees, the plants, hardly any. So I don't know if it's something that,
That's a
you
good
know,
community
our
meeting.
Yeah,
worker people can do,
Or
or,
like, can we get a,
We
can
are
we
down
get
to
a
one
Boy
again.
Scout troop involved or
So-
something?
Yeah, they need
and so
projects,
we have
right?
started,
That's
the
right, that's
process
good.
of
We have a couple,
hiring.
where are our guys that built the, I think we have a record of those guys that built this one out here. We
Yeah,
can-
we've gotta have Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
and-
Malo
Yeah.
still involved in the,
Say who
is
was?
Malo still involved in those Boy Scouts?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that would be.
We should reach out.
There's also, there's another,
Blair's, they're involved in the
okay,
Scouts.
there's still another, that just did the pool picnic tables.
Iowa or?
No,
what's that?
Yeah, I know the Blairs are.
I can
192,
see him.
and
I just can't
Malo's-
think of,
I was
Malo's
like, yeah,
troop-
this is not an Eagle Scout project, I think.
No,
This
it's
is,
not
you know,
Scouts or
this is getting a
whatever
troop
we're
together for an
yeah.
afternoon.
yeah, this is, so I
And I
think
would
it's a great idea.
say there's a new class of master gardeners this year, so we may have, I mean, last year I got only one person helping me from master gardeners. This year, I think there are 65, you know, so maybe we'll get some help from them,
Okay.
especially if it's a one-time thing
Exactly.
or two-time.
So yeah, I would say order, what, 50 of each of the ones we missed out on last time, or?
Sure.
And then, you know, as soon as you start to get planting dates, we can all work to try and, you know, I would love to help, but I have to bring my kid and he's gonna pull up everything that I plant, so I'm a wash. Believe me, I would love to, not, never mind.
So
I
I'm
mean,
doing-
but we can work to try and find Boy Scouts or folks needing community service or,
Okay. And I think it's April 17th, at least for the Green Columbus, so we've got a couple months.
Yeah.
April 17th pickup, and they really need to be planted pretty quickly, because they're bare root.
But if we know when we're gonna pick up and we actually start this now, we could do April 17th rain date, or April 18th rain date is the 19th. I mean, we could
Yeah.
really,
Okay.
knowing when we can pick them up, I think will make a huge difference. I don't even know what day of the week that is.
So, okay, so I'm doing what we didn't get last year, I'm doing the white pines as well.
did we purchase? Or are
Uh,
those freebies too?
Well, they can, no, those would be purchased through, if we do the smaller ones, they'd be through Franklin Soil and Water.
I
Minimal.
mean, if, Mayor, I'm not sure, I don't know what kind of authority you have on the Mary Yost funds, but, I mean,
We just need to get it appropriated as, I mean, I can sign for it as long as it's up to whatever, but we still have to have it appropriated, so.
Like, we can get what, like 125 trees for $100 or something like that?
Yeah,
Exactly. I
I
mean,
don't
we can
remember how much
I mean,
they
we
were,
can
but they
appropriate.
were, yeah, like
Somewhere.
10 for $20.
Yeah, they were
or-
like,
So we need to line
yeah,
up, so we-
I thought in the email you
She
sent,
emailed
I
me,
thought they
she'll
worked
have
out
it
to
this
less than
morning.
$1 a tree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have that?
Either way, we are
Let's see.
going to be doing an appropriation, Brian, there, just
Okay.
FYI.
Because my
Um,
email's still not working.
So if we don't have it, I will make sure that there is, maybe we'll just appropriate like 500 of the Mary Yost, just so it's there and ready to go for small
said-
projects.
Yeah, pines are 25 for $20, eastern red cedar 25 for $20, and then they've got shrubs too. And they're 7 to 10
So
inches
it's-
tall,
so
2
it's
years
less.
old, so they're little guys, but they're less
Yeah.
than a buck a tree.
Could I make a comment? I have a friend of mine, she does the lower Olentangy, she's big into planting there. And I know she told me like, they switched over of like, she felt like 80% of those tiny sticks never took.
That's
That
why they're
if
free.
you can put any money into those $20 ones that are a little bigger,
Yeah.
your chances of them surviving are
Yeah.
a lot greater.
What I was told last year about the trees,
You're right.
40%.
Yeah, you just jumped in too quick. We gotta
40%
stop that.
won't,
Okay,
40%
I'm
do
sorry.
make it maybe?
Okay, it's just-
Sorry, that's my fault.
Yeah.
We're not having public comment at this
You
meeting.
just gotta,
I
No.
apologize, I
They
should.
started a new rule tonight, they had to take me back.
it's always been the same.
So-
Well, you never enforced it before.
A new rule, right, we need a
New
rule
rules.
about
Anyways,
public comment.
one thing I wanted to bring up since we were talking Franklin Soil and Water Conservation District, it saddens me that we are not a member of the Community Backyards Program. There's 16 or something different communities, and I found out about this last year, so I was excited in New Albany, because I get a rain barrel out of it. You get, so people get, you residents, which I think goes well with this, is that eligible residents can receive the $50 reimbursements. They take a little online test, and you can get a rain barrel, compost bin, or a toward a native tree, or a shrub, and a 25 reimbursement for native perennials. So this is a nice little benefit for the. for
Are
the
you saying
residents.
we're not, I've
We are
had that
not.
question before, we're not involved, we're not
We are not.
able to do that?
We do not qualify because we're not an eligible resident. Now, we can fix that,
Uh-huh.
obviously, and quickly become an eligible municipality. I will call them, I'm sure it's based on a per capita, and there's
Was that Columbus?
no, this is the Franklin County Soil and Water
Oh,
District.
because I applied last year and I got it.
No, they, probably because they thought you were City of
Compost
Columbus, but we are not
Compost.
technically one of the community backyards, so they didn't catch you. Congratulations on that.
Well,
sent me
it could
yeah,
be,
I
I
got
wondered too, when we go for the grant though, there's a grant for Columbus and then there's a grant for Franklin County because we're not part of Columbus. So I wonder if
Franklin
it would
County.
work the same way with the,
I don't.
Soil and water?
I will call them and ask them, because I would assume with the nature of Minerva Park, we should be a member of this
Yeah,
group
it
of
seems like a
community
no-brainer.
backyards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, so, I'll call them and find out what's required there.
so do I wanna just stick with the smaller or do we want to, I mean, if you purchase the 3-gallon, which is from Oakland, or a place like that, it's gonna be $30. Do we just wanna stick with the smaller ones?
I've asked for $500 to be appropriated from the Mary Yost Fund. I don't know how quick that's gonna happen, just as an FYI, but I have already asked for that to be done.
Should be done at the next, meeting.
So it could be.
I don't know that will be, I don't see any reason why that would be a problem.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
so, we can discuss that later.
So,
When
right,
do you
so we're in the
have to pay,
same.
when do you have to pay for it, I guess that's the question.
Well, I think the thing is, for Oakland, I think the big thing is, if you want the small ones, we need to order them or they're gonna be gone. If you're gonna go with the big ones, then we don't have to worry about the small ones. And Oakland, they don't have them in yet, but I think she said to call, maybe it was within a month, they should have them.
Do they warranty those at all, or are they still too small?
I think if you do retail, it's a year, I'm gonna say. If it's wholesale, they don't,
No.
which we could get them wholesale.
Yeah.
But they won't warranty,
Yeah,
or that's typical.
typical,
Of
yeah,
what
it's
they
very
do.
typical, retail sales warranty.
Right.
And I think if they plant them, of course, no, that would cost. I think they're warranted, also if they plant them, which I guess is because you're paying retail price.
I don't have an opinion.
Me either.
I mean, do we know what we're planting? I think I heard tell of 100+ trees.
Yep.
Do we know where we want to put this 100+ trees?
Well, the pines we had talked about, this is what I was thinking, we had talked about back by Black Sycamore, the lake, in that kind of corner. That's what I was thinking we'd do with those, but they could be, I mean, we could put them all over the place. They don't have to just be there.
I mean, as long as we have a reasonable idea of where we're putting 100+ trees, I have no concern.
We have so much green space, Brian,
I-
and we planted 250
I was gonna say.
did
how
last
much-
year. And there was tons of
And a
Tons
lot
of
of them
room
won't
left.
make it, so,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And yeah, the number of
they just replace those, so.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
Cool.
So what's the decision, to get the free 50
We're gonna
tree, or
get-
definitely
we're
We're gonna get 100 free trees.
which is
Well, I mean-
25 tulip and if,
Yeah, I'll probably throw some shrubs in there too. Is it okay if I do that? I mean, they're free. But we could also offer them to residents.
right.
If
Just
we're
so you
not-
know,
Yeah,
I
you
need
forget
some
about
again
that.
this year because some jerk decided to come mow my backyard, like never has anybody ever mowed my backyard, and I have no idea why somebody came the week after I planted those trees
So you need some
and
more
mowed
trees.
the hill in my yard,
How
and
successful,
they've never touched it.
how successful were you at giving away trees? I mean, how many did we give away last year?
Well, last year,
I don't think there
I
was anything
don't think, I don't think we did, I think
We
we
should make it
planted them
more,
all.
we
They
should really
did
make it
plant
more of a well, why don't we get, my suggestion would be, especially if we wanna make it a program for the residents,
Mm-hmm.
get a little more communication out there. Why don't we get some extra trees and give them away?
I mean, we could just say, you know, get 50 of each and you could give 25 away or.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Oh, I think it's a great
25.
idea, cause I would definitely take some again this year and put a
Okay.
camera up on there, see who's gonna cut it.
So I'll get several.
Brats?
Yeah, I'm sure people, much like they come get our COVID kits and our
Mm-hmm.
beds, they'll come get some trees.
So let's, in an effort to move forward,
Get as many free trees, if they're free, get
yeah,
as
do
many.
I mean,
it. You guys are
the
okay with
free
that, I'll do
ones, get
One of each.
what you
Without
know,
waste,
obviously,
yeah.
they're all native, they're all gonna be on our list of good to go, so get
Yeah,
what you think you can plant. And then we still have the question of if we're paying for anything, and if so, what?
okay.
Yeah, I think like the larger pines, right, from Oakland, could they
Yeah.
go down, yeah.
Do we wanna do the
So
bigger
they-
ones from Oakland?
Well, and it could be
we
that
can
you
find- we
do
can
a
find-
little of both. Maybe you plant just, you know, some smaller and some bigger to give them some,
Yeah, variety.
yeah,
Okay,
all right.
so is there a dollar, you said $500?
I just asked her to appropriate 500.
Okay.
And she may tell me it's already appropriated, so that may be
Could
done.
it come out of the, like, we have a general standing fund for trees, right?
Yes.
So
Yes, that's right, we do.
even if, you know, the cheap ones on council.
We will
say,
have it
"No,
one way or
we won't-
another."
We won't get your 500 from Mary Host, you can take it from the trees.
Yep.
So that could be earmarked for this situation, okay. Cause I have other thoughts too, but we won't get into
Exactly.
that. So
You
what
and I can talk
about
about that
the
in a little bit.
invasive, is that something I'm talking to you or to the?
No, I
Invasive
always like for you
removal?
to bring it to the group in case anybody else has a heart attack about it, because you know me, I'm like, oh, flowers, great, pretty.
Yeah,
What you got?
the invasive removal.
And you wanna have the community do that, or you wanna have the village do that?
Both, either?
So, you just wanna start tackling the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the question is where and when, right? So if we're talking about, you know, this hills here where I know honeysuckle's bad, we just need to get a scope and a price and pay someone to do it, right? I mean, I feel like we ask our residents come and hack down trees all the damn time. And sometimes we get a good response and a lot of times we don't.
yeah.
Right, so we should be focusing, though, we should making those asks when it is going to have the highest impact.
Yeah.
So how about I do this? And the other thing is I've talked to David Roseman, who's with the Allen Creek people, and their people can help as well. So what if I just maybe try to get some people together and then we can figure out when to do it? Is that good, or
Yeah.
just move ahead?
We can start there.
Yeah, I mean, this-
We'll ask our
I don't think anybody's
contractors.
against it, let's
Okay.
say it that way, there's nobody against
Yeah,
us
no, I
moving
mean,
forward.
it's
Okay.
almost an administrative issue, right? It's landscaping as opposed to really planning and zoning,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay,
So I would say, yeah, whatever
Maintenance issue.
can be done, yeah, do it.
all right.
Okay, so as far as agenda setting for the next meeting,
Goal discussion.
we wanna talk about folks' goals. We wanna talk about, if folks have goals that they wanna discuss,
Amphitheater, recommendation of that
or to
time.
the amphitheater. And then I'm going to ask Eric at the next meeting to walk us all through trees in right-of-ways and what happens when they die and or fall down and or want to be swapped.
New section, old section,
Everything.
Yes,
We can go,
everything.
we can go there all.
yeah, 'cause
Just because I feel like
And hazard trees.
there are some questions now and there are going to be more, and I would like us to all have a common understanding, in the hopes that, you know, if a recommendation needs to be made, we can help council out with that, and if everything's working fine, at least we're knowledgeable enough that when people come to us with questions, we
and we do already have questions, we have some people that they're dead and they're not under warranty, and do they fix them, do we fix them?
Right, and so
So there's-
I would just like to understand that, so I don't wanna, you know, I'd prefer to let Eric present instead of us throw questions and confuse ourselves.
Just for clarification, are we talking just hazard trees in right of ways or just
No,
any
we can
trees?
talk all trees and
All
right of ways.
trees.
Got it, okay,
Yeah, and we can go over, and there's some other side notes with
Yeah.
hazard discussion.
so we're talking tree lawns and
Correct.
all that kind of stuff, got it. Yep, yep.
Okay, and for the record, I will not be here February 2nd. I didn't realize it was that quick. I thought I missed every single one of my meetings so I will not be here.
Okay.
So anything that you guys need from me for the shelter update or anything like that, Eric and I will be working on that. Actually, we probably won't be doing, we'll see.
We'll have something ready for, because council
Yeah,
will be
'cause that's
seeing the
really
shelter.
council,
Council
yeah.
will see the shelter. Amphitheater will be us at that point in time, we'll have
Exactly.
things ready,
So
so.
if there's something you need from me, just let me know before then, because I really thought, I don't know why I thought it was not February 2nd.
February 2nd, sneaks up on
That's
you.
not on the village's calendar.
Oh, what's
Is it on the
village?
next one?
What do we
I don't
have?
know, but I have the village's calendar synced to my calendar,
That's
and
the-
February 2nd is not on the village's
That's the
calendar.
first Wednesday, so that's interesting.
No, you're correct, and she may have waited,
It could be that it's just not updated, I was just,
she may have waited to make sure we weren't switching dates and times like council just did, that was possibly the other conversation, so
alright,
I
yeah.
think she asked me about that.
Okay, does anybody have anything they'd like to say?
It'll
Okay.
be, yeah, just for clarification, it's gonna be the 2nd and the 16th, correct?
Yeah,
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
All right, then we are adjourned.
All right, so how does this work for your operating when you won't recognize anyone that comes?
I'm gonna set a rule for the next, I'm gonna work on setting a rule that we'll discuss on the next meeting for public comment.
Okay, so I got some stuff, I mean, just, the meeting's over, can I say some stuff to you guys, are you willing to listen to me? Or are you just gonna?
Listen,
Can I just have 1 minute?
Can I be completely honest with
it's
you?
not a meeting.
I have 6 plumbers in my house right now,
Yeah.
and my wife is putting my kids to sleep. If you
Right,
wanna
so
call me
can't give me
tomorrow,
Another minute.